Welcome to the WFC Behavioural Safety presentation. The following presentation will outline various vital aspects of behavioural safety and show how you can help us to ensure that these are achieved. We have processes and procedures in place, but what we really believe will make a difference is your attitude towards working in a safe manner. What is behavioural safety? Traditional safety focuses on site conditions, equipment, housekeeping, tools, machinery, and guarding. Procedures, instructions, safe methods of work, and permits to work are all introduced to maintain a safe workplace. But accidents are still happening. At some point, the safety performance stops improving, and we believe that you cannot continue to improve without tackling behavior as well. You may have the best systems and procedures in the world and the most immaculate workplace, but injuries will still occur if people break the rules, take shortcuts, and don't wear the correct PPE. Studies have shown that up to 95% of injuries at work have an element of unsafe behavior, the things we should do but don't, or don't do when we should. The chart shows how safety rates improve as safety management becomes more sophisticated. When everyone on site behaves in a safe manner, we will then be able to further reduce or eliminate the number of accidents. So what is behavioural safety? A determination and belief that no one should have to be injured or worse in the course of their work. A belief that all accidents and injuries can be prevented. If we believe these statements and act accordingly, we will improve. We mentioned earlier that at least 95% of injuries at work have an element of unsafe behavior or are due to unsafe conditions at work. As you will see by the statistics shown, WFC are currently lower than that average, but we are still not happy, as we firmly believe that we can do better. This is Heinrich's safety triangle. Herbert Heinrich published a book called Heinrich's Law in 1931, in which his research showed that as many as 95% of all workplace accidents are caused by unsafe acts. This statement is still true 80 years later. This is where behavioural safety has an effect. So what we are looking for is to start at the bottom of the triangle. By halving the number of unsafe acts, we can halve the chances of a death or serious injury occurring. Conversely, if we allow the number of unsafe acts to double, we are doubling the chances of a death or serious injury. The Health and Safety at Work Act 1974 puts specific legal duties on employers but also employees. If you fail to act in a safe manner or to report a known hazard, you are breaking the law and can be prosecuted and personally fined or imprisoned as a result. All employees have a legal obligation to abide by the rules and procedures as imposed by WFC, and not to interfere or remove anything that has been provided in the name of health and safety. By using an unsafe scaffold, you're breaking the law. By not wearing PPE as instructed, you are breaking the law. By failing to comply with a risk assessment or method statement, you are breaking the law. We think it is important for you to recognize the legal consequences of your actions at work, but we believe it is more important that you behave safely and look after yourselves and your colleagues at all times, because it is the right thing to do. Our directors and management all have families of their own and appreciate what impact a death or disablement will mean to you and your loved ones. Whether it is a fatality or loss of earnings through a lesser injury, an accident at work will have a significant impact on your lives. Let's look at the causes of accidents in more depth. As this diagram shows, unsafe behavior and unsafe acts lead to unsafe conditions. An example of this would be allowing an untidy site, which may lead workers to behave unsafely. So an unsafe act or unsafe conditions will ultimately lead to an accident and its consequences. It may not happen the first time or the second time, but the more you carry out these acts, the higher the chances of an accident occurring. Remember Heinrich's triangle? The more unsafe acts or conditions, the higher the chance of a death or serious injury. These bullet points outline just a few of the unsafe acts which sometimes happen on site. All of these acts break the law, put yourselves and others at risk, and are unacceptable. Again, is this your site? Have you seen these conditions? Have you removed or made safe any of these? Human costs can be many and varied. We must remember that the human cost is not only to you, but also the others around you. All of the things we have seen so far can be addressed one way or another. There will be some areas out of your control, for example costs and program. It does not mean that you cannot make sure everyone around you is aware of the associated risks. This means those under your control and the higher management above. They may not be aware of the impact their decisions are having, so tell them. With proper thought and planning, there is normally a safe way of carrying out any task. This diagram shows that simply changing your attitude can make the difference between a safe and unsafe outcome. Near-miss incidents are unplanned events that, only due to good fortune, did not result in an injury or damage to property. They are also known as close calls. We can learn from near-miss incidents, but only if you report them. We need to make sure that they don't happen again, as the next time we might not be so lucky. As stated in the final bullet point, we all do or have taken shortcuts in our time. Maybe to keep to budget or program, maybe just because it was easier and quicker, or maybe just because we are big brave builders and only lightweights would wear a dust mask or gloves. If we continue to take this attitude, eventually your luck might just run out. Taking shortcuts can only have two outcomes. The first route demonstrates how sometimes we get away with it. You think you saved the company time and money. You saved yourself a lot of grief, time and effort. You think to yourself, next time, I will do it the same way. Just because you got away with it this time doesn't make it right. You were just lucky. The second route demonstrates how taking a shortcut can result in an accident or injury. Hopefully it was not too serious and you just learned a hard lesson. But now, as a result, you are safer, and next time, hopefully, you will do it another way, the correct way in the first place. Remember, you have a legal obligation as a requirement of the Health and Safety at Work Act, and more importantly, a moral obligation to do the right thing. Reporting procedure. Don't walk by. If you can remove a hazard easily there and then, do it. If you can advise a colleague of a safer method of work, tell them. Don't always rely on someone else. You should then report it to the site agent so that lessons can be learned. If you cannot remove the hazard yourself, report it to your foreman or the site agent. If they cannot or fail to act, speak to your higher management, the WFC Health and Safety Advisor or a company director. So to summarize, behavioral safety starts with you. Your attitude and the decisions you make affect everyone on site. Stop and think about the possible consequences of everything you do. Report unsafe actions and unsafe conditions, or put them right yourself before they result in an accident. Lead by example. You may be surprised by how many follow. Behavioral safety ends with you. Jason Anker is a well-known public speaker that tells of the consequences that he has and continues to suffer as a result of an accident caused by an unsafe act. Please do not dismiss this. It drives home the real consequences of a serious injury and the effects it has.
I had my sources telling me.
How to be safe is going to be completely different from anything else because it's a movement. It's going to be something that's just in your heart. Safety at the moment, most people do it up there, it's something they think about. When safety becomes so personal, that's the difference. When you climb up the ladder, you're not thinking about getting the job done, you're actually thinking about your son or your wife. And proud to be safe is going to be that. That's what it will represent. It's the difference between doing something because you have to and doing something because you choose to.
How long have been friends with Jason? Well, growing up with him, really, ain't we?
Yeah, lived next door to him most of my life and...
Same schools?
Yeah, same football teams.
Yeah, Fawn and Colts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just
when he used to
grew
play
up together
football.
from scratch, really.
When he had his accident, I remember my mum telling me and just thinking, nah, can't be right, can't be right.
I don't think anyone could believe how serious it was at the time.
And you just kind of thought, it's just, yeah, it'll be all right, it'll be all right, you know.
It don't happen to people you know, does it? It's other people, innit? So we thought he'd be out and back playing football again, but...
You start thinking of his family, you know, and his kids and that. He was very, very young, his kids were very, very young.
Why me? You know, why me? I was a good lad, family man, hard working. And then that evening my wife came with my kids, my daughter Abby sat on the end of my bed, and I just thought to myself, well, I ain't really got a choice in this.
So I was only 3 when my dad first had his accident. I can't really remember it as if he'd had his accident. All I can really remember is spending a lot of time with my nan and granddad and my auntie. It's weird because I never see my dad in a wheelchair. It's only till we're in certain situations, so like going on a plane and dad's like the last one to come on in like a tiny little pushchair thing. Things like that. It's not embarrassing, it's just, I know it's embarrassing for my dad, so I get more angry than embarrassed.
I think it had a big effect on him, didn't it?
Yeah.
I think
his
he went through a lot
happy-go-lucky
of
went
lows.
down. He's got to have been depressed.
So you imagine a 6-month period of your life where you tip up to work one day with no cares in the world. But because of something that you do that you know is unsafe, you're going to spend the rest of your life in a wheelchair. You're doubly incontinent. Your wife and your kids have walked out. Now you've lost your house. 6 months. I wasn't coping. I was seeing a counsellor. I was on antidepressants. I was drinking really heavily. All I'd done before my accident was football. Football mad. Home and away on a Saturday, Sunday, we'd all play for the same team. And initially my mates refused to go back to the football. If you can't do it, we ain't going to do it either. And I said, no, you're not stopping football, lads. I'll be all right.
At the time of his accident, I had his football boots in my kit bag. I only told him this recently. I was 4 or 5 years before I could throw them football boots away. Because I don't know what it was. There's something in my mind that was, he couldn't need them again, sort of thing. I don't know what it was, but I couldn't throw his boots and shin pads away. I just took them in my kit bag when I went to play, and there must have been 4 or 5 years before I could finally get it round my head to throw them out. It was a long time.
My son Sam's 8 years old, and he asked me if he can come live with me and his sister. And I spoke with my ex-wife, she was remarried, and she agreed. But I'll always remember the day my dad went to pick him up. He came back Sam come walking down the drive, a little bag on his back with some of his clothes. But what do most 8-year-old lads carry with them absolutely everywhere? Football. Yeah, football. And you tell me I'd miss this for 8 years, but I'm sat in the garden with mum on the patio, lovely summer's day, watching my dad kick foot round the garden in the sun. And I just suddenly became aware that I was going to be a football, my boy. And I don't think I'd cried since come out of the hospital. I went in the house and I absolutely sobbed.
There's obviously things I have missed out on. It's like we were both really into football, and he told me that if he had like a minute to walk out of everything, he would just choose to take me for a kickabout. So that's something that gets me every day.
I've just bought my own house. I've had all of my bedroom and bathroom done upstairs, but Dad can't come upstairs to see it. And like when I get married, it's just, it can be hard. Some of the things, like when you have to plan it around Dad's wheelchair.
The guilt I feel towards my kids of not being able to do the things that Dad should do because of something I did at work one day I knew was unsafe, but it done sort of end.
The not being able to play football with him, I think, affects us both. But we don't really talk about it. This is the first time today that I've actually opened up to anyone.
It's not just Jason and his immediate family, it's his mates and our families as well, because we've all grown up together. It was hard, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we'd probably talk about it more when Jason wasn't with us. But
yeah, sometimes that helps us to deal with it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To actually talk to Jason about it is probably quite recent, to be truthful.
You just didn't want to hurt his feelings, say the wrong thing, you know. But
because he was in some dark moods, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And you didn't want to make it any worse by saying the wrong. You didn't really want to say, like you say, men aren't very good at
it must
talking properly.
Took him years to really get his head around it all. You know,
Yeah.
It's not something that's overnight, is it?
No.
I do climb ladders, yeah.
Hate them. I don't even do decorating on a ladder. No.
The first time I ever climbed a ladder, I was roofing, and I was like 3 days into the job, and it didn't bother me. And then I got a phone call off my dad while I was on the roof, and just seeing his name come up as I was on the roof just flooded it all back. And there was about a year that I had quite a bad phobia of heights, but I've got over it now because obviously what my dad's done, he showed me that you can do them things that he did because that's something, but do it safely.
If I put a ladder up the side of my house, the first thing that would come to my head would be Jason.
Get it secured.
Yeah, that'd be the first thing with a ladder.
So this job we do, it is bloody dangerous enough anyway, without taking shortcuts, without taking chances, without leaning on lads to often get a job done, simply on that belief that today, it ain't happened to me.
It's natural to cut corners, I think, the human nature. You do the quickest thing, you know, it's just natural to do that rather than go around the houses, I can get away with just doing this. To stop and think about it first. Simple things just to make you think that it could happen to you and not just somebody else, you know.
I've seen a few lads take risks, stupid risks, when we've been to work, and I'll just tell them, remember what happened to my dad. And so I've tried to do my bit and use that to help people as well.
You see it all the time, you know, it is a regular occurrence. You've got to stop them, you've got to say, look, this could happen. Just think of Jason, think of other people that you might know yourself.
Family, friends,
yeah,
kids.
just take the whole aspect, you know, the whole circle of people you know.
When you see the personal side of it and the effects, even after all these years, still happening, isn't it?
Yeah.
My boyfriend's a builder, he's boxes as well, but he comes home and says stories of what he's done with his boss in a day, and it makes me really angry. So I've told him to come and watch my dad with me, because I don't think when you're young, even down to like being in a car and they don't put the seatbelt on, I don't see how people can choose to not be safe? For what? Because, like, the main reason I think people, I know it sounds a bit cliche, but they say to look cool, but Dad don't look cool in a wheelchair.
This ain't about me. It's not about you people. Listen to my story. If you ain't kind of listen for me whatsoever. This is about you people sitting there and imagining something like this was to happen to you. And how it would devastate your life. Because I am just a normal guy. And the only reason I put myself through this 4 or 5 days a week, 3 times a day, is for you. Is for you to take something away from this, and the next time you look at a job and think that don't quite look right, or it don't quite feel right, that you do something about it. Them first 5 seconds when you look at a job, you have that gut instinct that something ain't quite right. And over the subsequent minutes, what do we start doing to ourselves? Yeah, we start convincing and justifying what we're doing is right. It's that first gut instinct. Because if you think a job ain't right out there, guess what? It probably ain't. And that's when you need to put your hand up, raise a question. Are you sure what you're asking me to do here is safe?
I don't think people realise what it could do. I think they just think, with Dad's story, it's affected him, well, it's forever. It's never going to change.
A risk is not worth taking to having to put through this. It's like, in a way, what's happened has made my dad a very, very strong man, but the effect it's had on him and the family and how everyone's grew up to have to deal with it, it's not worth it at all.
If you want to play football with your little boy or run around the park with your little girl, you've got to think about them things when you do. I'm gonna cry again. I suppose I just feel sorry for my dad, but it's 20 years since it's just like a waste to his life.